Welcome to the Harmony Experience Room. Introduce myself. Don't want to spend too much time on that because we have a lot to cover in an hour when it comes to some of the tips and tricks for Harmony setups. There'll be more webinars coming where we go more in depth with some of these features. Today we're not covering the Z-Wave Zigbee integration. That will be a separate webinar on its own. But we are going to start covering some advanced activity programming that you can provide for your customers. So what we have here is the Harmony Experience Room that we use for several purposes, and now for webinars. So I'll be hosting a lot more webinars, for the CDI channel. So just briefly, my background: been with Harmony for 10 years, been almost in every department from the call center to QA, and now really focusing on the CDI channel and providing webinars, training, and working on our roadmap as well, as we're looking to further build on the CDI channel for our installers. So today I'm going to show you the things you can do today with Harmony. As you're aware, Harmony can control a lot of devices. It's no longer just IR. We do Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and so forth. And of course, we've done a lot of integrations recently with home control. So today is really about how to take advantage of these integrations and how to set up specific home control activities, and also bringing it together for your customer, really creating a more broader experience than just your standard activities. Whoever's familiar with Harmony, of course, we use these activity concepts of creating, some other people call it scenes, we call it activities. And out of the box, of course, you want to create, your watch TV, your watch movie, Xbox, and such. So these activities, I think a lot of you are very familiar with. What some of you may not be familiar with is these specific home control activities, and these home control activities that can just be set up as a trigger or in combination with the actual entertainment devices as well. So we're going to go through some of the setup. To save some time, I have set up quite a few of them. I'm going to demo some of these so that it really makes sense what we're trying to really cover in today's webinar. But before we start expanding in that, and going into these different activities, I want to briefly touch on the hardware. So what we're covering today, of course, is the Harmony Elite, which is the replacement of the Harmony Ultimate Home. Again, it comes as well with the hub. This one is, of course, not set up. I have it over there just for showing you the Harmony here with the Harmony Hub and the Elite. So the first thing I want to jump into is a great upgrade you can provide for your customers. As you can see here, I'm sitting in the kitchen, and it's great, having the Harmony Elite, but primarily this Elite, of course, is not going to be here in the kitchen. The Elite would be placed on the coffee table. This is something, of course, you're going to use here as you're using your entertainment devices. Of course, you can walk around with the Elite because it's using RF, but primarily this will stay in the living room area. So a great benefit is that we offer an upgrade. So we're just gonna leave that remote here for a second. So I'm in the kitchen now. Of course, I can use my phone, and I can use a tablet. Maybe there's a dedicated tablet. But for some users that may not have the app installed, a guest or someone else, or maybe if you don't want to grab your phone, you just want to use a handheld remote, there's this great option of adding a companion really to the Elite. So this is the Harmony Companion, which can be added to the Elite. I'm just gonna, for who's not familiar with that, show this here. So we have the Harmony Companion here, and this will be available as an upgrade shortly at Dow. Right now it's available on Logitech.com. And this can be simply paired to the Harmony Elite. So this is a great example where you are in the kitchen, for instance, as where I'm sitting. So right now the camera is kind of hindering these bar lights. So the home control buttons can be very easily programmed. So here if I give it a quick press, I can then turn on the bar lights here, and if I give it a long press, it turns off those lights at the kitchen island. So again, very easy to control your home control devices right from your kitchen counter, as well as you could be, for instance, listening to some music. So say, for instance, another great use case, you're listening to some music over in the dining room, and you just want to quickly mute it. So as it's playing, you don't want to run to the Sonos or grab a phone. You just can grab this remote very easily and mute it or change the volume. So again, that's another great example. I'm just going to turn off these bar lights, where you have that additional remote that can be great in a kind of an open kitchen area, as you can see here. So now back to the Elite. I'll grab the Elite here. I want to go through some of these. So the Elite comes on its own with 2 mini blasters. So the 2 mini blasters, of course, that can be positioned anywhere in your closed cabinet solution. They're very powerful blasters. They have 4 emitters in them. However, based on your setup, you might need more blasters. So what we offer is the IR Precision Kit, which I briefly want to touch on. And what the IR Precision Kit does, I'm just going to open this up here. So it comes with the stand, the 2.5 millimeter that we use in our hub, which is not the 3.5 industry standard, but it is designed for our hub. And it provides you with 4, as you can see here, 4 IR emitters that you can easily place on the device. So this is, of course, a good use case. Sometimes we hear stories, well, the cleaning lady moved the mini blaster, while she was dusting, or other cases where you have a very large rack and they may not reach all of them. So the IR Precision Kit, again, will be available at Dow as well. Great opportunity to really, tidy up, the closed cabinet and give you that full control. The other great thing is what you can do is the Harmony, of course, understands that these devices need delays between them. You can't just blast all this IR at once. So we do put in a brief delay between devices of a couple milliseconds, 500 milliseconds. So, however, if you want to kind of lower that and tweak that, you can change the port assignment. So if you want to do and make sure that the devices don't get as much IR, you can definitely do so. So that's the one thing I want to just show here. So I'm going to go into the Harmony setup. I'm just going to connect to the Harmony account that's on the cloud here. And as soon as it's connected, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and access the section of the remote and hub. And that gives us a lot of different programming, which we're going to cover today. So from the control app, as you can see here, I have a tablet that shows the the control app where you're actually controlling your activities and devices. I've now switched, as you can see here on the screen, to the settings of the Harmony. So this is where you do all the programming on the phone or on a tablet. So what we want to do is we want to go to the remote and hub section. And here I can very easily assign the devices to the ports. So go on IR assignment, and right now you can see hub and mini blasters. So maybe the Sony TV, for instance, the hub is by the Sony TV, so I'm going to say hub only. So now the mini blasters are not sending Sony TV commands through them, only the ones that are basically connected to them. So that's a great example where you can change the settings based on how you have your IR emitters set up and configured. So very handy trick. I want to make sure that everyone is aware that you can actually do this with our hub-based products. So and as soon as you make these changes, it saves the settings. What I also want to mention is some of these settings can actually also be done right on the remote. So right now you can see the remote is also syncing these changes that I've just made to the hub ports. Once that's done, I'm going to actually show how you can actually make these changes on the remote as well. So going back to the setup, what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go through a demo of some of these additional activities, and then we're going to use the settings here in the setup, and we're going to go through creating some of these additional activities that you can create for your customer. So before we do that, we're going to go back to the control app. So as I mentioned, I've already created a lot of activities. So, your standard activities would be, of course, a watch TV, a watch Roku, play Xbox, but you can do a lot more with these activities. And you can also, depending on these devices, create some additional activities for these devices to really delight your customer with these richer experience that kind of bring entertainment and home control together. So what we're first going to start off with is, what I want to mention is the app can also be accessed outside the home. It's cloud-based. So a great example of that is, maybe you're in a hurry, so maybe you're, in the morning you're, watching TV. So the TV is on, the lights are on, you got the thermostat running, in case you woke up and you want to make sure everything is warm. So you got everything on the go, and then you get called in that you're like 10 minutes late for your meeting. So you storm out of the house, leave everything on, so you forget to turn everything off. So with the Harmony, you can actually create an activity very easy, which I'm gonna demonstrate in a little bit, that will turn everything off, and that activity can be accessed anywhere where you can, have internet with your phone. So again, you don't need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. I'm gonna just test this here, and I'll leave you in the dark for a second. So I'm gonna start the away activity. So this would be the scenario where I still am out the house, I forget to turn everything off. I'm going to hit the away activity, which will not only turn off my TV, it will also lower the blinds, it will turn off the lights, and it will lower the thermostat as well. So it's a great example here of, quickly turning everything off, including your home control. So now that we've done that, the other great thing is a welcome home activity, which we're going to start off with. Let me just start the welcome home. So the welcome home, it could be a great opportunity to already start that as you're approaching your house. You can do that through different things. You can have a sensor in your house that triggers an activity, or you can have it done through the cloud, through some services. We have IFT, and we have Unomi that they use the geofencing. Again, I'll be covering that in another webinar, where you can actually have the house already welcome you before you can get there. So now it's opened up the blinds. It has started the Food Network channel. Maybe I want to get home, start cooking, or maybe I want to start it on ESPN. Again, this can be very easily set up for your customer, where they can just have a nice welcome home activity where it change the temperature, the lights, set the TV to your favorite channel. And this is just one example. You can also have it start some music. So instead of a TV, you could have it listen to Sonos. So now we'll get the lights a little bit warmer. Another thing I'm going to cover here is we're compatible with You since 2013. It was one of our first integrations that we had. And a lot of users have been using it. So we've been building on that experience, where we now also allow to import U scenes, and not just allow to import the existing light scenes. We actually have the opportunity to map that to one of these home control buttons. And the benefits of that is these home control buttons can, of course, turn lights on and off, as I've mentioned as well with the Companion. But you can actually have it do a specific U scene. So now I've pressed the light bulb in the bottom, and that's bright, cool temperature. So very easy. The top one is warm. I give that a little press. As you can see, very easily with a press of a button, I can execute these scenes. Or maybe I want to set some more of a party light scene. Again, that can also be very easily done with pressing the light button. As you can see here, it can also be mapped to a bulb. So we'll go into the setup, and I'll show you how easily you can configure these buttons. So you got the welcome home. So now, maybe the customer, once they're, they've unwind, watched a little bit of TV and, made dinner, you may want to start dinner time. So this is another great example where you can create a really nice activity. So I've created an activity here, dinner time, which is a combination of a bunch of things. So I'm just going to grab the phone so everyone can follow along. And I'm going to start the dinner time. So with dinner time, the blinds are open because I came home. But now you'll see that I'm going to actually change cameras here. The blinds are closing, the lights are dimming. It's playing some dinner jazz in the dining area. Just change the light settings a little bit. Just adapt to the atmosphere. You still got the kitchen lights on if you're cooking, but then again, you can easily turn those off as well. So it's a great example of where you can really bring it all together. You got some music playing, you got the blinds going down, and you got the lights set to create a little nicer ambiance. And then you can very easily program it to when you're done with your dinner time activity. So I just hit the off button, for instance. It will not only turn off the Sonos, it will put the lights back to whatever setting you desire. So just putting it back to a little bit warmer, a little brighter. In this presentation, I'm just going to put it full bright so everyone can see what's going on. So great example of creating these activities that really bring it all together and really delight your customer and kind of going beyond the standard activities. And there's a lot of great things you can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through how to create these type of activities. And just to give you an idea, this is very easy to set up for your customer, and it really is an extra delighter. So on the Harmony app, I'll click on the Harmony setup, edit devices and activities, and then I'm going to go ahead and start creating one of these activities. So I'm going to click on Add Activity. So the other thing I wanted to mention is, so we were talked about the standard activities, but there's other great scenarios where, for instance, the default activities, watch TV, these are all great, but depending on the devices that you're setting up. For instance, this is a Sony TV. I'm going to show you very quickly after the other activity how quickly you can create a smart TV activity and a Netflix activity. And then later, perhaps you can add lights to them as well. So I'm going to create our own activity here. And maybe we'll call this maybe cocktail hour. Let's do that. So I'm going to name my activity, as you can see here. And I'm going to give it an icon here. Cocktail hour. And I'm just going to select the dining room Sonos. I'm going to add some of my lights here. So the lights are added. I got the Sonos going. So it's now adding all that. And here I want to adjust the devices for the activity. So this is really adjusting the home control devices. So in this case, I want to adjust the bulbs. These are all Philips bulbs. If they're Z-Wave or Zigbee bulbs, you just get the warm, or it'll just be a brightness slider. But for the Philips or LifeX, we have these options to create different scenarios. So here, maybe you want to, create different colors to them. You can maybe start with maybe making them all about 75% warm. Or maybe you want to change a couple to maybe a couple different colors. So go here with the kitchen here. As you can see with the tab, you can change the color, the brightness. You can decide if you want to add it to all the lights. You can say the shade. So here the blinds, you can say maybe I want the kitchen blind closed, so that way no sun is coming. And then maybe the blinds by the living room, I'm gonna have them about 25% down or 30. So now I've defined my blinds, my lights. You can also of course, change the time when it applies it. So I'm just going to change the color on this one here. Okay. So you can say In this activity, of course, when you want to start, you want to change the lights as you go. But for some other activities, we'll get back to, we may want to change when we want to adjust these devices. So that's something we'll come back to. So again, the activity starts with maybe perhaps a light scene and setting the blinds. You can also say, when I'm done with the activity, I want the blinds to maybe open or close. I want the lights to change to brighter. A good example of where you want to add an end state, so an end activity setting for your lights, is when you're watching a movie. So when the customer is done watching the movie, it brightens all the lights from a dim setting to a warmer setting. For this test, this example, we're just going to leave it as is. So we'll be creating that with the Netflix activity. So now we've basically created the light scene that we want for the cocktail hour activity. And now it's going to retrieve the Sonos favorites. So just like with Watch TV, we have favorites for Sonos. So we'll set it to Cocktail FM, for instance. So this shows all the favorites that I have set up on my Sonos. So this allows you to really create these specific activities. So like dinner time, where I use dinner jazz. I am now creating a cocktail hour. I'm using this tune-in cocktail station. So it's just saving the changes here. And again, the favorites, this could be, for the TV, it could be for Sonos. We also provide this for Roku. So you can do a lot of these unique customized activities that will trigger some of these favorites. So I've created the activity. So now I want to go ahead and show you some of these other activities that you can add or change. So Netflix, wanted to just quickly touch on, we create Netflix activities for smart TVs that have the Netflix button. We also provide it for Roku. So on all the Sony TVs starting with 2014, there's a dedicated Netflix button. So we're going to create a Netflix activity with the Sonos TV, with the Sony TVs, pardon me. And we're going to add the AVR to it. We're going to add a couple lights. There we go. So it's already powering on the TV behind me because it wants to, confirm that we have it on the right source. And we're using the Denon receiver to control the volume for Netflix. The input, it's not wired right now, but that would have been TV audio. So I'm going to set that up. Okay, so the TV has been powered on. So here this is a good example where, maybe when you're watching Netflix, you want all the lights to dim, or you want maybe, you can also say, well, I'm going to have, the lights dimmed, but then maybe the lights in the kitchen, I'm going to turn off. So you can kind of create an actual scene here where maybe you turn on certain lights and leave other ones as is. Again, you can also have the shades go down, so when you're watching a movie, you're not blinded. You can do them halfway. So these are another examples of where you want to make these adjustments based on your customer preference. Maybe they want the lights off in the living room, or maybe they want them dim. So you can customize that. The other great feature is maybe for Netflix, you maybe want the lights to dim or turn on if they're off to this dim setting, but maybe you want this only done at night. So for instance, if the kids are watching TV at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we may not want the lights to turn on for that activity. So there's a very simple option here, they're very easy to use, where you just simply say, okay, I want these lights to turn on only after sunset. So, or you can say only during the day. So there's some easy programming where you can really make it more efficient for your customer, where the lights are only being turned on when they're really desired to be turned on, primarily when it's dark, of course. So for demo purposes, we're going to just leave them set to always. So maybe when you're done watching the movie, you want to set it to, of course, turn on all the lights back on, and maybe set them to like 75%. So It's another example where you want to add an end state to your activity. And again, this is a case-by-case scenario. Like I mentioned, we have basically 3 different types of activities now that you can configure for your customer. You have of course, your entertainment-only activity. And then you have an activity with entertainment devices and home control. And then there is these activities that you can create specifically for home control. And some of these specific activities can be programmed in different ways. So for instance, the away activity that I demoed is really designed to turn off all the lights and turn down the blinds and so forth. But I've also answered it to turn off my entertainment devices. So that's the thing I'm going to just cover in a second, where we'll be going through that away activity where I can explain these different behaviors that you can configure. So I'm going to test the Netflix activity later. So the away activity, I've already set it up, but we're just going to go through this so I can explain how I've set this up. So the away activity, because I want my entertainment devices to turn off, doesn't mean I have to select them here. Not at all. You actually want to only select your lights and maybe blinds and the thermostat. So here you just set this condition: when I'm out of the house, this is what I want to happen with my home control devices. So once you've selected your home control devices, you then are presented with the entertainment device option. What do you want to do with your entertainment devices? So because this is a case-by-case scenario, depending on what type of activity you're creating. So in this scenario, we want to power off all the entertainment devices. So that's how I've set that up. But there are scenarios where maybe you want to, maybe your customer doesn't have Philips Hue and is using Lutron lights, or they're using Z-Wave or Zigbee bulbs. So really, you can create these similar scenes, and then make sure that when they activate these scenes through activities, that it does not turn off their TV. So a good example is maybe they decide while they're watching TV, they just want the lights to turn on. Again, they can do that with a home control button, but maybe they want it specifically to a certain temperature. Maybe they want certain lights on, certain off. So you can create this kind of light scene activity. So for instance, here on my screen, I have this activity called warm. So right now the lights are bright. Again, I've programmed these hue scenes here. But in case you have different bulbs, you can also just create an activity where it kind of acts out as a scene. So I'm going to press the warm activity, and now as you can see, it changes the lights to warm. So same scenario as a hue light scene, and now I've done this in an activity. Now, just to show this again, what is different here is I can be in an activity. So for instance, if I would start watch TV, I can start this warm activity without it turning other devices off, like my entertainment devices. So this is an example where, as you're starting watch TV, I'm going to just set it back to bright. So now during watch TV, you might want to set it to a specific light scene. And this time I'm going to select warm, and you will see that because I've answered the question here to leave my entertainment devices as is, so leave them on if they're on. You can see I just very easily started this light scene through an activity without it impacting the entertainment devices. So very important feature. So just recap, we have 3 different activities. You have your standard entertainment activity type, then you have your home entertainment with lights. And again, there's just all these great examples. So another example I'm going to show after this. And then, of course, you have your home control only activity, which you can see here was the warm activity, which I just demoed. So that's a very easy programmable scenes you can create for your customer. So another great example is, I want to touch base on this. We have a sleep timer, but which is great for creating a good night activity. I'm just going to change the camera here. So you can see here, there's the bedroom as well. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this on the phone again. This can, of course, all be done on delete. I just want you guys to tag along and follow along on the screen. So I'm going to start the good night activity, which again is a Sonos activity. So now it's going to lower the blinds. it's going to turn off the lights in the living room. It's going to keep a couple lights on in the kitchen so I can find my way. And then it's playing some calming music on the Sonos, some crickets to fall asleep to. So as you know, I'm trying to fall asleep, I can then easily with the Harmony Elite or on my phone activate the sleep timer. So just to recap, on the phone, I just went to the little menu, I hit the sleep timer, I can set it for 15 minutes, and now what will happen is after 15 minutes, just gonna put you in the dark for a second, it will automatically turn it off, which is of course also turning off the lights in the Sonos. So again, great example where you can really delight your customer with creating these extra activities. And this is something, of course, it requires more programming, but this could be, in my opinion, and you know, that's up to the installers, but you could sell this as a package. This is a premium installation where you can really, you know, add on to the overall experience. So of course, you know, there's many times I just want to simply, you know, push a button and change the lights, and we have that, we offer that, which is great. But there's also times I want to entertain guests. Or like I said, you know, the cocktail hour that we just created. So we, you know, let's give that a shot. So I'm, you know, starting the cocktail hour activity. Now it's playing some Sonos. You know, it's opening the blinds in the living room. You know, changing the light scene a little bit. You know, this is really where the customer is now getting the most out of their home control and entertainment devices, and all done with a push of a button. And that's it's crucial. You got to make sure if your customer can do it with one button, that's when we strike jackpot. So that's really our aim. As you can see, this is very easy to kind of program this. So I'm going to show another quick way of another way where you can really change the game activity. So I'm just going to put the lights a little brighter here. As you can see, it's very convenient how you can, with a push of a button, change the lights very quickly. So for instance, I created an Xbox activity. The activity is already created. So again, this is something you can do later as well. So just want to show an example where, you know, I have an activity, it's working, that's great, but I want to do a little bit more with it. So I'm going to click on the activity, and then I click on the Edit Start Sequence tab. And in there, if I scroll down, I have the Edit Home Controls and Edit Entertainment Devices. So there's two different sections. The home controls, that's what we're going to work on. The entertainment devices, that is where you can do some other advanced things, which I'll come back to after we've modified this activity. So I just want to, you know, for my Xbox, I'm going to select basically all my lights here. Dining room, we'll do the shades as well. So I'm going to select just one light bulb, and I'm going to just go to the color, and we'll make it, let's do it green for Xbox theme. And we just hit apply to all, so this will apply to all of them. The left shade, again, it's very easy to program because you just basically slide it, and then you just basically hit apply to all, and you can already see that the right shade has already been closed. So very easy feature to save you some time. So now we've modified the Xbox activity. So now it's saving the changes, and as we've saved the changes, we're gonna go back to the app here. I'll just put it back to warm here. There we go. So let's start our Xbox activity. Play Xbox. All right, so we'll first, of course, you know, turn on your TV. It will turn on the AVR. As you can see here, it does have to wait a little bit for your TV to warm up. This is a great Sony TV, but it does take 8 seconds. It's an XPR. It takes a little more than the KDL, just a more advanced processor. But you can see here, that's another little tweak I want to teach, and how you can optimize, because I understand that a lot of you use an AVR and just one input on the TV. So that's another tip we're going to go through. So as you can see here, it started the Xbox. I got the Xbox running here, and it added a green Xbox light theme. So very easy to just quickly set up a light scene for that activity. So coming back to what I just mentioned, the TV needs 8 seconds to warm up. That is correct, and we need to provide the correct values to make sure that the input, of course, is automatically set to the correct input. And that's very important. So we need that time. However, a tip that I have is if you're never switching the input on the TV and you're always using the AVR, then technically you can change that timing for your TV as long as you do not use any other source on the TV. So what we're going to do in this example here, we're going to go back to the TV and we're going to just hit the delay for the TV. As you can see, it's set to 8 seconds. I'm going to set it to 0. So by doing this, of course, your startup time is going to significantly change because we no longer, from an off state, have to really wait those 8 seconds for the TV. The AVR is only 2 seconds. So usually the television is the biggest bottleneck where you have to wait for a significant time from an off state. So just to recap, what I've done is the value is the power on delay. So that's a delay that we specify to understand, okay, we need to turn the TV on, but it's going to take X amount of seconds before we can send the input command. So because I'm never switching the input, I'm always using the same input on the TV, I can now set it to 0. So this is a great suggestion, when you're doing an install job that is just on the television. So, so that's another great tip. The other thing what I wanted to mention is that some of you may not be aware of is that we have also a smart TV activity, and that's another great activity where it automatically will launch the smart TV UI. So, and that's again, a lot of these activities we already recommend from the get-go. So we recommended Netflix, we've set that up. The Watch Smart TV is already selected, as you can see here. I'm going to add the Denon receiver to it. So what this will do, this will allow for a very seamless transition if your customer wants to use, the Smart TV UI. Sony now has Android TV, which has a ton of great apps that the customer can use. From YouTube to things like Pandora and whatnot. So there's a lot of great ways. They can also use it, of course, for their streaming. So with the Smart TV, we can very easily switch from the Watch TV experience to using the Smart TV. So we just set that up. Make sure that it's set up in harmony. Okay. I'm just going to start the Watch TV. You can see here. So I got the favorites already set up as well. The cable is running in the background there, as you can see. And the hopper is being controlled through IP. So that's another great way of starting the day with Watch TV. But now you want to use the Smart TV. So just hit the Smart TV button, and now we'll automatically launch the Smart TV interface, as you can see. Just change camera there, kind of a better angle. So you can see the Smart TV behind me. And now if I want to go back to TV, I can just very easily hit the Watch TV. That will close the Smart TV UI and switch back to the hopper. Again, very easy way to switch back and forth. I'm just going to turn everything off. I think someone unmuted accidentally, so I'm just going to fix that. I'm going to walk through it right now. There we go. Okay. So going back to the enhancement of the timing. So now that we've done the timing change to the TV, it's going to be much quicker. So I'm going to start the Xbox 360 activity, and it will very quickly start that activity without waiting the 8 seconds for the TV to warm up. Again, because we're not really using other inputs. This is a great example where you can make that little tweak for your setup, and it allows you to really you know, change the timing for your setup. So that's, again, another great example. Just gonna go put the lights back to bright. There we go. So use scenes, just want to quickly touch on how you import those. So if you already have a customer that you're maybe doing a return visit, they have a U. Again, you go back to the setup, and when you go to your devices, you select the U bridge. And again, this is something, if you do a new setup, we automatically ask if you want to import scenes or not. As you can see, there's 7 scenes imported. And it shows the lights that are connected. So I would basically, if I would import the scenes, you click on re-login, and of course you need to know the account that's set up for the Philips Hue, and then from that point it imports the scenes. Again, very easy way to set that up. The other thing, what I quickly want to show is where do you program these home control buttons. So as you can see, I've programmed the scenes on the Elite. I've also programmed specific lights for the kitchen to the companion. So on the settings, we click on remote and hub, and we're going to select the Harmony Elite. And on the Harmony Elite here, we select the home control buttons. I'm going to select home control. There we go. As you can see, it's already set up. So I've set it up to warm here. If I want to change that to a different scene, I just click on edit, and you can see this allows me to do different things. I can map a group to it, so then it will just turn on that light group to the last used state, and then with the rocker button you can of course change the brightness. You can also just map an individual bulb to this. Use case, maybe in the bedroom you just want to turn off that one nightstand lamp. That's a great example of mapping that to one of the buttons. And here you can see, so right now I have warm. Maybe I want to just adjust blue to it, for instance. So I've just changed the mapping on that. And now it will save changes to the Harmony Elite. So again, very easy to just allow a light scene or a group to one of the home control buttons. And just recapping on, so what we've done here today, we've created these specific activities that really tailor to the customer's wants, such as, you know, dinner time, good night, welcome home. These are great examples of really bringing it all together, tying the home control into the entertainment, and creating these unique experiences. As you can see, these are just some, you know, adding a light scene to a gaming activity. Another example what I want to mention is, for instance, with Roku. With Roku, you can create also customized activities. So maybe your customer has a favorite Roku channel. So let's just go through this example. Or maybe they want to use Sling TV. So you can create an actual Sling TV activity. And you can just give it a name. You can still give it the Roku icon, or you can give it a TV icon. That's all up to you. I'm just going to select the Roku, the TV, and the AVR. And just like I showed with the Sonos, you select a favorite channel. Another quick thing I wanted to point on, this is a recent improvement we've done on our data side. So a lot of these AVRs that you install in the field have better ways of kind of managing the volume from an off state. So, you know, it's the classic where they left volume on late, or maybe you left the house and, you know, your 6-year-old kid cranked it way up. So with Denon and Yamaha, for instance, there's things called quick select and scenes where, you know, you really tie the input to a audio setting and a volume predefined setting. So we are now offering these as actual input. So instead of setting it to just the input, it will set it to the input, the volume level, and the audio setting, that DTS or Dolby and so forth. So another great feature that we've rolled out now on our production service for all these AVRs. So I've now set the inputs, and now from that point I want to actually select a favorite start channel. And this is where you can do a lot of cool things. You can create an Amazon activity, like I said, Sling TV, whatever specific channel they may have on their Roku that they use very frequently. You can now create these unique separate activities. I'm going to test later. And again, Sling TV is a prime example of that. And so as you can see, the changes are made as I'm programming, so you don't have to do a huge synchronization at the end. So I got the Roku channels here. So these are all the Roku channels I've set up on this Roku. So I'm going to select the Sling TV, but as I mentioned, you can create a Vivo activity or Voodoo and so forth, and tie a light scene to it and so forth. So you can really expand on these activities and dress them up and really create that wow factor for your customer. I'm just saving the changes here. So you can see, very easy. You select the devices, we automatically retrieve the favorites, and there we go. So all done. And again, the changes will get synced on the remote as soon as it's finalized. So we're just going to show it here on the app so you guys can follow along. There we go. So here's our Sling TV. There we go. And of course, it's starting on the remote as well. So again, this will turn on the TV, set it to the right source, and start this. So Sling TV is not configured, but this is basically the Sling channel. All right, so this kind of sums up the webinar. We have a couple minutes left that I want to kind of keep open. I want to make sure everyone has the chance that they can register. We really appreciate that, so we just know who's attending. There's an option there to opt in as well for potential roundtable. Like I've mentioned, we're really looking investing more in the CEDIA channel and looking at these experiences and how we can build on that for the CEDIA channel. So I'm just going to open up the mics. So people that have questions, feedback, feel free to ask your questions, just in case there's anything I haven't touched on.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys have like an option to add like a double input or a double power on? Say there's a device that's having trouble powering on the first time. If you want to add like
do this right now. That's a great question. Let's just say the Xbox is not powering on well or intermittent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the device, and I'm going to go to the power setting. This also has some other features which I want to actually quickly talk about, but let's change the power behavior. So of course it first goes to are you using discrete or toggle? Is it a tote device? It's called in the field, or it's actually using nice discretes. I'm going to select power on here for the Xbox. So you can see there's one power on command send. So I'm going to hit add step, and you can add 2, 3, 4, however many you want to add. But of course, if it's, as the industry calls it, a tote device, if it's using toggle, then it's not really recommended. And I would look at, there's some other tips I have for that. So, but let me just first show you what you can do if you have a discrete command. You can add the command twice or 3 times, but you can also go to the power feature here. There we go. So there's power on. And do you see the slider here? I can say I want to blast this power on for 3 seconds. So instead of asking in a soft voice or just yelling to it, you just blast that command for 3 seconds. So that's called a duration. This is another great feature that we didn't have in our legacy software. So you can add a duration, or you can double up the commands. But let's look at this example. Let's pretend you have a tote device that uses power toggle, right? That doesn't work with discretes. Here are some of my suggestions from being in support back in the day. The first thing I would do is there's a couple things you can do for the activity. You can allow it to first power on. So let's go to the activity for Xbox. I'm going to go to the Xbox activity. I'm going to hit edit the start sequence. So this is for a lot of things. It just allows you to dive right in there without having to go through the complete wizard. So just a summary of the activity. And if I scroll all the way down, we're going now, instead of the home control, because we're not adding lights and such, I'm going to hit edit entertainment devices. As you can see, these are 3 devices, and this is the order that they're powered on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first power on the Xbox. This means it's not being flooded by IR. So that's one tip I have. The other tip that I have is if you're using a mini blaster, of course, with the Xbox, it's even on our support article, which I also helped create. You got to put that mini blaster right by the eye. The Xbox is notorious for that. So it's just one example. The other thing that you can do is, of course, you can change the power order. You can then assign it to a specific port. And then on top of that, what you can do is, and again, maybe changing the power order is all that needs to be done. I'm just showing you, kind of best, good, and also help in that order. So we've now added a duration to the power command. We've powered it on first. And then there's a thing called inter-device delay. And that's what we call it. An inter-device delay is just the timing tolerance that we give between devices. So, when you start an activity, we can't just send the power to all devices at the same time. On average, each device needs 500 milliseconds. It's just so much time before it can digest the command that's destined for it. Because of course, the Denon receiver sees the power command for the Sony and so forth. So again, in the device tab here, I'm going to click on the Xbox, and we're going to click on Fix Delay, so on the device settings. So here I can change the different delays. So I could up the inter-device delay to 1.5 seconds. So a great question. Now that we're actually covering the power settings, I want to give one more tip on the power feature. So the play game activity, right? I think a lot of customers, when they're using their game console, they might be playing a game and then they quickly want to maybe watch the game that's on, but then they want to return to the game that they're playing, for instance, right? So of course there's these power saving modes, but maybe they just want that device to remain on, but of course they would still want the harmony to turn it off by default. So there's this great feature that again not everyone is aware of in the power settings. I'm going to go back to the device in the power settings, and this is a feature also that we only offer on our newer remotes, where not only can you just say keep it on all the time, you can say keep it on between activities, but turn it off when I hit the off button. And you can do that for a specific device. So and this is something that is very handy for a game console. Maybe you want that for your DVR as well. You want it to turn off, but not when you're switching back and forth. So now the Xbox will remain on between watching TV and playing a game, for instance. It won't turn it on automatically, but if I'm playing a game and then go to a different activity, it just leaves the Xbox on. So another option that you can use to really enhance the experience. So good questions. Any other questions, feedback, suggestions? There's something that you would have liked to see that I didn't cover today?
I've got a quick question for you regarding Denon HEOS.
Yes.
Do you guys have commands for that?
Well, so that's through IP. I can't really share our roadmap. I can hint at things. As I mentioned, like we're really getting back into the CEDIA channel. Sonos is a great experience, but again, HEOS is being used in the CEDIA channel as well. Bose is doing its thing. So we are looking at expanding our IP control. So right now we detect a lot of devices through IP. So we detect the Sony through IP. We don't control it through IP. We detect it. We detect the Denon AVR through IP. We don't control it, but it's definitely a technology we're really interested in. We've done some integrations like Sonos, Roku. We recently done Dish, so the Hopper we control through IP. So it's definitely something I foresee most likely that we'll seriously gonna look at that in the near future. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, feedback?
I had a quick question.
Go right ahead.
I missed the webinar from yesterday and started late on this one. Are you going to have these available?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an ongoing thing. So again, that introduction to Harmony, I will be doing that again next month. This type of webinar will be done again as well. What's still on the menu is right now multi-zone. It's still somewhat challenging. I have some tips for the time being. Again, something we're looking at seeing if we can enhance that experience. But at least for what we have right now, I want to give a webinar on how you can make a multi-zone a fairly good experience. I'm going to say fairly because it's still a workaround, to be honest, but it's a pretty good experience once you've done all the tweaking. So there'll be a webinar covered on that. The other webinar, let me just show you the product briefly. It's coming up. So this is also very exciting for the CEDIA channel. So what we have here is our Harmony Home Hub extender. So this is an accessory that right now just simply connects to the Harmony Hub. And this opens up the world of Z-Wave and Zigbee. So that on its own most likely will be a two-phase webinar, maybe one if I can squeeze it in an hour. So I like to keep about 10, 15 minutes depending on the audience to also leave some time what we're doing right now. I think these questions and such are very valuable. Coming back to the registration form, that's why I'm asking this question. If anyone is interested in these roundtables, like I said, we're looking at really investing again in the CEDIA channel and working on these experiences. So we definitely are eager to hear from you as well. So there'll be plenty of webinars coming up. So and then we'll be doing more email blastings, making announcements. We try to announce them about a week and a half to 2 weeks, so it gives enough time to schedule. We'll be doing the same thing where we'll do 2 of the same a day, so if you missed one, you can join it again, and then probably do it in a two-day segment, so you have the opportunity to try the different webinars. I'd like to thank you all for your time and interest, and looking forward to seeing you in the upcoming webinars. Have a great evening.